I tell you, I have never voted for a Democrat, but this year I am proudly casting my vote for Vice President Kamala Harris.
Hey there, friends. It's JVL from the Bulwark here with my colleague AB Stoddard. AB, last night something amazing happened out in Wisconsin. Liz Cheney up on the stage endorsing Kamala Harris. How'd that make you feel?
I didn't know how it would make me feel. I was excited. I knew it would be just a huge moment. I knew it would be surreal. Liz Cheney she can be warm, but she's not gushy. The two women never hugged in this sort of, I don't know, this momentous occasion. I thought. I don't get
the sense that Cheney is a hugger.
Right. But in her own way, she was so heartfelt and she was so passionate.
Patriotic.
She said it was amazing to be there. She was honored to support her. Her language about Trump obviously was so perfect and so compelling. But I must say, I was just sort of on the edge the whole time. Cheney's whole message, them together, and then Harris's message. And she brought up Ukraine. There was just so much about it that was surprising. Even though we knew that Cheney had endorsed, Harris was going to come out and tell us why everyone needed to work to stop Trump. It was still riveting, and everyone who hasn't seen it should watch it.
I ask you to stand in truth, to reject the depraved cruelty of Donald Trump. And I ask you instead to help us elect Kamala Harris for president.
Yeah, it's really, really something. I mean, it's an exceptional moment. And what makes Cheney's endorsement so, I mean, it's poignant because this is a woman who threw away her entire career to stand up to Donald Trump. But what makes it so poignant is that there's so few Liz Cheneys. Right. I mean, I think that if you go back to 2015 and you had sort of in 2015 sketched out to most Republicans, hey, Trump is going to be president, then he's going to lose re-election and he's going to start an insurrection. What percentage of the Republican Party would turn on him? I think most Republicans would have said all of us.
Of course.
Right? And it turns out there's like 10 people. Yeah. I mean, it's Adam Kinzinger, it's Liz Cheney, Mitt Romney. Like that's, and after that you can find a few others, but not a lot. And it's an exceptional, the fact that it isn't a lot makes the price that they paid so much greater and the sacrifice required so much greater.
Yeah.
And,
which sucks.
It does suck. Did you see Joe Biden on the tarmac with reporters? Did you see him just like bursting with pride about this last night? And he comes over, he goes, did you see her? He comes over to me, he's like, shouting at the front, did you see her? Did you see it? Did you watch that? He goes, her dad and I, we'd argue like hell. But I always liked him.
I know.
He's always a good guy. I always respected him.
I loved that moment. I don't know who else among us, JVL, loved that, but I loved like Liberated Joe being able to say that.
Best president of our lifetimes, maybe.
Yes.
Certainly the greatest living president. So here's another thing though, that I keep coming back to this, and like Sarah doesn't like to hear it. This Democratic Party is not the Democratic Party of the Obama years.
Right.
It is much more hospitable, I think, to the Liz Cheneys of the world, right? If you are a person who is a rule of law hawk and a foreign policy hawk, the Republican Party really is your natural home now. Like you're going to have, the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
If you are somebody who is a rule of law hawk and a foreign policy hawk, the Democratic Party really is your natural home right now. right? For all of those, AEI type Republicans, like they should be, just by the numbers, much more comfortable in the Democratic Party than in the Republican Party of today. Don't you think?
Right. And not free trade, but freer. It is so interesting how many things they've given up in the cult of Trump. And that's why I found it so powerful that Harris chose to talk about Ukraine at this event with Cheney. That was the one policy thing that she wanted to raise, that they are the party of freedom, that they are the party that will protect a sovereign nation from invasion. And it really set it up. It really telegraphed to people, I thought, and I couldn't imagine it until I saw it. Who are the voters that will be convinced, pushed by this endorsement event in Wisconsin? But as I watched it, I thought, she is really telling people in the center who are not Cheney Republicans, but are swing voters. They are not partisans. They're not deeply politically engaged. They're kind of mad at both parties. They feel politically homeless. She is telling them, that event told them, this is not a progressive party. You are safe voting for this president. She is taking, she's taking the most important concerns, not only seriously, but she's prioritizing them. And so it was, once I saw it in action, I realized she's not speaking to Republicans so much. And we hope that she is, and that it'll work. We want to shame Republicans into either voting for Harris secretly or just not voting for Trump. But Cheney and Harris were speaking to the center of the electorate. And that's what Harris has done so well, right? Taking the fear of the border, a chaotic border, seriously, that these voters have, and speaking to that fear over and over again. I am going to limit this. I am going to control the border. And so that is true. The Democratic Party has now positioned itself as a party far more in the center than we could have imagined a few years ago, and obviously far more in the center than the Republicans, but adopting some real Republican principles and priorities that they have abandoned. It's a stunning turn of events in just a few short years.
Yeah, on the one hand, it makes sense, right? You do have a lot of centrist, former Republican type, college educated suburban voters who have left the Republican Party and moved into the Democratic Party. So it makes sense the Democratic Party would get pulled a little bit towards the center on certain things, right? And they haven't, not on everything, not on, healthcare reform, which they want more of, and spending. And, they're still protectionist impulses, but the Democratic Party is much more of a free trade party than the Republican Party is these days. And most strikingly on national security, where they are essentially the John McCain party now. I think that's fair to say. And that's to the good. I think we should have 2 John McCain parties. That would be better.
Of course. And Harris made a point of that last night, which was great. She said, we will go back once there's a healthy 2-party system, and that's what we want. Yeah.
And that's the other thing, that there is a recognition by the Democrats that, they don't have this fantasy of like, oh, and we'll just win all the elections for forever, because it can't work like that, right? I'm sorry, the Democrats aren't going to win every election for forever. And what you need is a Republican Party that, like, when they win, maybe they have outcomes that you don't like, they pursue policies, but like, it's not the end of the world. Like, you could say, okay, we'll get them next time. And that's the goal. That's the Holy Grail. Is it going to matter? Like, I keep looking. So this is the thing. Here is my concern, AB. When you look at everything except the Kamala Harris, Donald Trump matchup numbers, it's all very encouraging. So Cook just reclassified a whole bunch of new races. All of them are upgrades for Democrats. In Texas, in Iowa, in Pennsylvania. And you're seeing polls come out where Ted Cruz is slightly in trouble in Texas. Now, I don't think Ted Cruz is going to lose, but again, a poll showing Trump up 2 in Florida. Again, I don't think Trump is going to lose Florida. But all of these other signifiers, the early voting numbers in Virginia, the young voter registrations and party IDs, like all that stuff, Kamala Harris's favorability numbers, her net faves, if you just looked at that without seeing any of the top line numbers, you would think, she looks to be really pulling away. But she's not.
Right. So what we wanted was a breakout
which of these
in
is wrong?
September.
Right.
Yeah. We wanted a breakout and we didn't get it. So we don't want neck and neck polling. And the ballot tests are too close. But you're right. Everything else shows movement that is not good for Trump. And so I think that we have to trust in that movement. We have to trust that 2-point Senate race in Florida in consistent polling it means something. And it means that there's energy and that the Democrats that showed up at whatever we saw in 2022 is building post Biden. And I think I still want, it's October 4th, and I really want to see some buffer. I want to see her break away this month. And I'm going to hope that with Springsteen and the Obamas and her continued incredibly focused, smart messaging, that she will get a little room by the end of the month. And that people who are, we always bang our heads about who are these undecideds, but these late breakers, they're full of hate and they're very stubborn. And we hope that late breakers will see a winner and want to go with a winner in Harris. But one other thing that just popped into my head was remarkable is the Cook Political Report released polling this week showing that she's still a little behind Trump on the economy, but has come to even with him on inflation. And that was hard work. People listened to her messaging on cost reduction and her earnest, proposals and her narrative about how, we're going to make this a priority. We feel the pain and we're going to do what we can to fix it. And I was surprised by that. Hardened people like you and me, we don't think these members of the people are listening, but the fact that polling moved is really remarkable to me pretty quickly.
Well, and reality is helping too. We just got the final pre-election jobs report. 254,000 jobs added, beating expectations. Unemployment 4.1%, which is very low heading into the reelect. Not the reelect, but heading into the election for somebody whose party controls the White House. Real wages up 4%, I think. Inflation down to 2.5%. I mean, these are the signals that normally suggest that the party that holds the White House continues to hold the White House. But again, this is, everything looks like, she should win by 7.
I know, but no one wins by 7 anymore. But it's also entirely possible that this is a different, it's entirely possible that abortion really puts the Republican Party back for a really long time. We just don't know, right? This is their first presidential election. It's not a midterm. A lot of Americans don't know what a midterm election is, and they don't vote in them. And this is the first presidential election post-Dobbs. And there is absolutely a universe where there is a revolt that produces those big numbers.
So we're talking about women in this show. I don't know if you saw, but Melania Trump's book, which is coming out a month after the election, The Guardian, I think it was, got a copy of it. And in it, there is a whole passage in which she talks about what a strong supporter she is of abortion rights.
Yeah. She is staggering. She's turned out to be just a real creepy grifter. I don't know. I used to have a soft spot for her, but yeah. So she's.
Is Pro-Life Inc. going to have anything to say about this? do you
Of
think?
course not, because they'll be like, well, Trump is just trying to wink, wink to the center. But his response yesterday about this was, I can't tell her what to do. So he's telling every other woman in the country what to do.
Look at that.
So that in and of itself is a commercial. That is an ad.
And one more person, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who went onto Twitter. It's not clear to me what the impetus for this tweet was.
Right. What was the inspiration?
They can control the weather. It's ridiculous for anyone to lie and say it can't be done. AB, this is why I really like her.
Yeah. I love her. She's the gift that keeps on giving. I really love that Marge. We don't know what inspired her, but it's ridiculous that anyone would refuse to accept this. They control the weather. This is Jewish space lasers. I want to remind people that just a few weeks ago, she is the one that led the fight, the revolt against Laura Loomer. Laura Loomer was a bridge too far for Marjorie Taylor Greene. But she also needs us to know that they control the weather. And I don't know if it's the globalist Jews. I don't know if it's the people that are trying to assassinate Trump.
Was Rosh Hashanah the impetus for that tweet?
Or is it the Iranians who want to take? I mean, I don't know, but I just want people to know. I want people to really integrate that if Trump would prevail on November 5, there is a great future in a Trump administration for the very talented and skilled Marjorie Taylor Greene.
CC, you were being sarcastic. I wasn't. I feel like Marjorie Taylor Greene and I could be friends because unlike J.D. Vance, she believes all this stuff.
Yes. No, I agree.
And
I understand.
I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm not okay with
authentic.
it. You know what I mean? Like
she's a nutter.
But she just is what she is. I don't think there's any calculation going on. She's just the same person all the time. She is rallied to this cause. She's like, some sort of weird Joan of Arc type figure where she really,
Joan of Arc and
she
MTG,
is
JDL.
100% committed to this. And
yes,
I can live with
real.
that. I can live with that in people. It's the JD Vances of the world who, when they're on the debate stage, are, refusing to say whether or not Trump won. But then when they get cornered 48 hours later, are like, yeah, of course he won. Those people who are just as phony as anything and just looking for advantage and looking for an angle. And Marge is just being Marge. And
she's the real thing.
I don't celebrate it all, but I feel like I could work with that. Like I said this to Sarah a couple weeks ago. If Marjorie Taylor Greene and I went to the Outback Steakhouse and split a bloomin' onion, I feel like we could have a nice conversation.
Yeah, I remember that, a conversation you had with Sarah. I want to go drinking with Marge, but because she talks like she's drunk in the morning. But I'm with you that this is all legit. This is authentic Marge. This is what she thinks. It's what she believes. And that is different than the Know Better crowd. And to circle back, I think we need to keep the heat on the Know Better crowd. Like everyone should read Morning Shots today. Tim is writing about this event with Cheney and Harris in Wisconsin, and he makes a great point about Mitt Romney is one of the people that has left Liz Cheney out on her own. And there are people who know better, and they have a few weeks to see the light. But they know.
Not just Mitt, like Mike DeWine. Like, he's the sitting governor of Ohio. He's been a pretty good governor. He did a good job on COVID. He's 77 years old, I think. Somebody can fact check me on it. I may not be 77.
Yes, he is.
He ain't never running for anything again. His political career ends the day he leaves the governor's mansion. And here he is, in the New York Times begging his party's presidential candidate to stop harming the people of his state and lying about the people of his state. And then he feels like he has to say, and I'm still going to vote for him. I don't think he's going to vote for him, but he feels like he has to say, why? Why do you have to
Right.
say
And then,
that, Governor?
then he hung out with J. Mart from Politico. Jonathan Martin chronicles in a recent column from a few days ago his time with DeWine, when DeWine expresses his real anger about these lies and the effects.
Kamala
they've
Harris
had on
isn't lying
people.
about the people of Ohio and trying to hurt his constituents, and he knows that.
Asymmetry, JVL. Different rules. So yeah, I think Mike DeWine is afraid for his personal friendship group while he remains governor, or something.
You're 77. What do you need friends for anymore?
I know. So it's a cry for help, right? He's trying. He wants the Lord to know he's on the right side, but he still wants to say he's going to vote for Trump because he's a Republican. Jonathan, he's a Republican. Yeah.
Well,
I know.
And that's what Liz and Adam and a bunch of really, not enough, but a bunch of really brave people like Olivia Troy and Alyssa Farah and others have done, say, like, we're not Republicans, we're Americans.
Right.
And God
bless them.
All right. Hey, everybody, 1 month to go. That's it. 1 month to go. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow the channel. We're going to get through this thing together.